Epstein files got released, turns out a lot of politicians and celebrities in America were raping children. And also, Jeffrey Epstein appears to have had a significant degree of power over these politicians and had his hand in politics. This is what we found out, and many other things, including things to do with Bitcoin and things to do with faked deaths, from, I believe, the second release of the Epstein files. They still haven't released them all. They're holding back, and you know why they're holding back, because there's probably a lot more incriminating stuff in the files that they haven't released. They're probably off, like, trying to delete them all and burn them all, to be fair. But there are still victims of these crimes, and they can't get rid of them. And so long as people listen to them and they're alive, although it sounds like some of the victims might not be alive anymore, then facts can still come forward about this whole fiasco that's going on, which incriminates Trump and incriminates Hillary Clinton and incriminates many past presidents. I think Obama was involved. Keep taking photos of this escape. I'm trying to make a vlog, but also it's quite a pretty day on the moor. Suddenly Trump's like, don't talk about it. Why are you talking about the Epstein files to all his supporters and everyone else? Like, why are you talking about the Epstein files? And the right wing have been saying for a long time that they think the government of Israel has enormous amounts of power. I always thought this was to do with, you know, the Jew connection sort of thing. Like, a lot of right-wingers will always bang on about the Jews, and the far left will smear the right-wingers as Nazis, where in fact Nazis are a far left phenomenon because they're socialists, but there are lots of different kinds of socialists around. Anyway, we all know about this second war that's going on. The first war, I would argue, which is an orchestrated war, is the Ukraine and Russia war. The second war was Israel versus Palestine, which technically has been going on for a very long time, but in very recent years they just went mental and completely leveled and destroyed all the buildings that were in the Gaza Strip, just destroyed Palestine to the point where, you know, we may have thought that people supporting Palestine were the bad guys at first, but now it's kind of flipped around, and Israel are definitely the bad guys in this situation because of just the mass amount of destruction that was wreaked on the opposing country. And then while Trump's going, why are you talking about the Epstein files? Don't talk about it. People are saying, no, we're definitely going to talk about it. And a ton of MAGA supporters have decided, you know, Trump's in league with Israel. He's actually the bad guy. They've mostly gone off to join Nick Fuentes with America First. Some of them have gone other places. Hopefully some of them will come over and become anarchists. Real capitalists for once. The long and the short of that is that people are saying to Trump, no, are you insane? We're not going to forget about the Epstein files. And even more people, including people not on the right wing, like me, are understanding that there is obviously a great deal of Israeli control going on within America. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know much about it, but I've heard some things that apparently there have been operations and government things where the two governments have teamed up for different things that they've done, and I wasn't aware of them until recently. But I still don't go in for the identity politics of, like, just because someone's a Jew, they're bad. I don't believe in that. But if we're talking about the Israeli government, absolutely I'm gonna throw them to the wolves, because guess what? They're a government, and a very powerful one at that. And of course, I seek to remove all governments. And then in his triggeredness, I think, in Trump's triggeredness at so many of his ex-supporters now, and obviously so many people on the other side who didn't support him in the first place, or lost support for him, that would be me, a while back, all went, no, we're not going to stop talking about the Epstein files. It's just come out that you and tons of politicians and celebrities have been raping children on this little island to give this very powerful schmoozer political power over you, blackmail power, and provide this little kind of luxury fantasy haven for paedophiles. And you have to ask, well, why were all these people paedophiles in the first place? Like, they had these proclivities within them, these desires, they had these things anyway, else they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have been so easily led to Epstein's Island and his plane trips and such, and his parties. And so in Trump's triggered rage, he decides to team up with Israel and do something for Israel that they have been wanting to do for a long time, which is go to war against Iran to try and remove the regime there. And yes, he full-on takes America into full-blown war with Iran, which I was talking about last year. It basically started last year when I did my War #2 topic video, because Trump just randomly started helping Israel by launching loads of missiles into Iran, like we're not meant to be world policing or getting involved in fucking foreign countries or the Middle East. The Westerners shouldn't be doing that. We should have learned our fucking lessons after the war on terror. But, I mean, Trump should have learned his lessons after fucking Biden ended the war on terror in a big failure. But that's if you think that Trump isn't actually uniparty, isn't actually controlled, isn't actually the same thing as Biden. I think we've all been fooled for a long time that the Democrats and the Republicans were two different things against each other, and that is not the case. And the same with the so-called Tories, Conservatives, and the Labour Party in Britain. These are all the same thing. Governments will all do the same thing. These governments are in fact combined. There are actually hands at work much bigger, which are still government. People like to call it the deep state. I just think it is the state. It's people trying to push for a world government, like the World Economic Forum and the UN. These are very powerful, rich, above government people. Usually they're people who were like ex-government, like Tony Blair. They're globalists and they're technocrats, and they're all in it together. They are one thing. They are not lots of different separate political parties as we're led to believe. No matter who sits in the seat of power, it is the seat of power itself that is in control. Anyway, it suits Trump's needs, after being implicated in the Epstein files, to get into this war to help Israel, to remove Iran, and America has not been in a full official war for a while since its proper involvement in the war on terror, but it had a bunch of troops stationed in Iraq and Afghanistan for a very long time. I think the war on terror wasn't it 20 years? It was a very long war. And all throughout that, the US and various Western countries sent troops in, sent troops out, kept a presence in those places. And since Biden ended the war on terror, they've had their troops sitting around doing nothing, so I guess it suits the war machine for wars to be going on perpetually like this, for money, stolen money, to be poured into wars like this. And so now the public knows that all these people, like Trump, like Hillary Clinton, like Obama, they're all paedophiles who rape children. The war also suits him in distracting the public from what's going on. Big distraction. How can we distract the public with a big thing that we need to get the nation invested in? Do your duty to serve government. Or maybe we could just bring in the draft, recruit all the people by force that we don't like, kind of like what Russia did with the Ukraine war. They just drafted, I think, loads of people who didn't want to go to war into the war, sent them into the meat grinder. That's what they're going to do in the US. I think they're going to at some point try and push the draft or conscription to harvest up all the young men and just send them into the meat grinder to die. They'd be especially happy if they can pick up people who disagree with government policy and send them into the war. But I think a lot of people have learned their lessons since the Vietnam War, and draft evaders and conscientious objectors are a huge thing. People are very anti-war now. So the worst time for the government to try and use a war as a way to crush government dissent. But they're trying, and Trump has termed the first operation of this Iran war as Operation Epic Fury, which sounds like a ridiculous, stupid, arrogant name, and a lot of people who know, what's been coming out of the Epstein files have called it Operation Epstein Fury, which is quite funny and very on point, and, it basically describes what the war is, to be honest. Trump the pedo has got triggered that people have found out that this leading president in a position of power, ruling over them, stealing their tax money, also fucks kids. And ironically as well, one of the first things that happened in the war on Iran, it feels like the other day, it feels like, was it a week ago that this started? It's so recent in living memory. He starts this war to distract people from the Epstein stuff, and one of the first things that happen is he bombs an Iranian school full of female school children, killing, I think, 109 of them. And I heard from another source that after they killed those 109 school children, which I think were the daughters of people in the Iranian Navy or something, the parents and such descended on the rubble to pull out the bodies of the kids, and America just bombed that same spot again while the people were sifting through the rubble for their dead daughters. Which I think is another tactic used in Vietnam as well. You blow up a place, and then when people come to look for survivors, you blow it up again. Just horrendous behaviour. As if it wasn't horrific enough to do the initial strike, you do that straight after. And that's Trump, He's not what anyone thought. He raped children and then tried to distract from it by getting into a war. And one of the first things he did was bomb over 100 children to death and their parents in a country that is on the other side of the world, that America has zero beef with, on behalf of Israel, it seems, which has huge amounts of power. And I believe Epstein is an Israeli name, so I assume that there's a link between him and Israel as well as him and America. But apparently these Epstein files are quite large, and they've stretched through decades, through many, many years, and so there's a lot of information to sift through, and so people are trying to create computer databases of the files so that they're easier to read, because apparently there's just so much information to sift through. So things are just coming out piece by piece, kind of slowly, as lots of different people look through the files and try and find names in the files and read all the emails and look at all the photos and try and work out what the hell was going on that island. And, it's worth pointing out that it's quite possible, from what's come out in the files, that Jeffrey Epstein is still alive somewhere. And then, just the other day, another thing happened which has, thrown the whole right and left culture war on its head. Hillary Clinton came out and just fully, on a TV show it seems, although it might be AI and you can't believe everything you read these days, she fully endorsed President Trump, something you'd never believe would have happened in the past 10 years. But there it is. She's like, oh, Trump's getting it. Trump's a good guy. I think we're having a quite intelligent business relationship now. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Well, I guess we kind of know what's going on. They're all in it together, and they always were. Anyway, it's been very difficult to make this video. Lots of distractions all around me. I thought I was in a nice bay where there wouldn't be anyone bothering me. Turns out, there are hundreds of people around, and it's very difficult to sift through my thoughts right now with all these sounds. Hopefully the noises will stop soon and I'll be able to continue, but fuck's sake. That took a long time. Yes, mate, what's up? My views on this are pretty simple. Shouldn't be going to war, shouldn't be having any foreign wars, shouldn't be letting globalist technocrats in Israel or in Europe or in Switzerland or in Germany or anywhere else influence you. We as the public should not be letting government influence us at all. We should not be letting government get away with mass theft, paedophilia and child rape, monopoly of violence, gun control, and controlling our freedoms in any way. And we've been letting them get away with it for a very long time, up till now. And I want to see more examples of bravery. I want to see the public doing something. I want to see all of us prepared to get uncomfortable for a few years while we sort this problem out. All governments are illegitimate, and they must be removed. That's where I'm at. Thank you for watching.